Good morning, everyone. We have Coach Payton for the call. Megan, I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you, Patrick, and good morning, Coach. We'll begin with Zach Stevens of DNVR.
Coach, thanks for
Yep.
talking with us this morning. On film, what did you see the reason for Bo and his receivers being off on a couple of those deep throws during the game?
Look, I don't. I mean, I look at there's the two deep throws, the flea flicker, and then the third down play, and I mean, I think you got to be careful. You're not overcoaching a deep ball that's going off the fingertips. Now, we've seen a couple in the last 2 weeks, and yet someone asked me about it yesterday, and I think that the more concerning problem would be is if we're leaving those balls inside where, they're susceptible for an interception. So he's climbing the pocket. He's doing a great job. Both of those are third and long situations where there's, obviously a different type of pass rush, but that's not what's concerning to me this morning after the loss yesterday would be, the deep ball misses. That wouldn't be what's on my mind.
Andrew Mason, the fan. We'll skip Andrew and go to Eric Dalala of DenverBroncos.com.
Hey, Coach, you've mentioned before the fine line between winning and losing. Kind of what gives you confidence that can be flipped to the other side there? Maybe what are a couple things that can be done to get there?
Well, I think two things. I have great confidence it can be flipped. Here's the thing, and we did, and yet that really came from one explosive run. I thought that was probably more of a wash, but we had more minus plays that are harder to overcome. The two takeaways were the reason we stayed in that game. In other words, we only had 9 first downs offensively. We have to be more efficient relative to what we're doing, both with the run game and the pass game. Our average third down was 3rd and 11. So the reason it was a close game was because we were +2 in that department. Obviously, we're playing a good football team. We feel like we're a good football team, and we flipped the script in the end of the second, early third, and then we have to offensively be able to finish. In 2 weeks in a row, we've been in that position to finish in the fourth quarter. So I think the penalties were a big issue today in the meeting. We had 10. Some of them, we force the defense. Defense forces a punt. We line up in the neutral zone, and that equates to a turnover. All of a sudden they're 1st and 10 again instead of you having the football. Those are the things. And look, us as coaches, we've got to look closely at what we're doing to help eliminate those issues.
Andrew Mason, the fan.
Sean, you often talk about painting the picture around the queue, around Bo, kind of for the offense as a whole yesterday, kind of what was done right and what was missing in terms of painting that picture.
Yeah, I think it was too inconsistent. There were too many minus plays. And so yesterday was a day that I would say the job degree difficulty factor, it was a hard day to play quarterback when your average third down is 3rd and 11. So if we're not more efficient on 1st and 2nd down, the best in our league are going to struggle with the numbers that we gave him on 3rd down. So that's the thing that stood out was not only the penalties that set you back offensively, but the minus plays. And that has to be corrected for us to be a quality offense.
Luca Evans, the Denver Post.
Yeah, Sean, you mentioned the concept of not obviously overcoaching on a deep ball here and there. I'm curious, does the conversation, any conversations with Bo, is it change, after kind of a game where you leave a couple of things on the table? Does that change in year 2 as opposed to year 1? Are you talking about any things kind of differently, or is it the same
Are we
as
talking
you
about
would?
the deep ball again? Meaning the conversations relative with the Q would not be those two deep balls on 3rd and like 23 or 3rd and 11. The conversation would be, throughout the game relative to plays we're getting in and out of, location throws, 3rd down. I mean, but a lot's been made, I think, of the two long balls, and I'll be honest with you, and that again, driving in this morning, that'd be like 50th on my to-do list item.
Brandon Cristal, Gorilla Sports.
Hey, Sean, you guys had the lead the entire fourth quarter the last 2 weeks, and you talked about all these mistakes. Is there some solace in knowing that you're kind of in the driver's seat and that these are correctable mistakes and not, physical issues where you're just getting, your brakes beat off or whatever and trailing by a lot or whatever it may be?
Well, I mean, look, we're playing the schedule that we got, right? And obviously the last 2 weeks we played some pretty good football teams. We think we're one of those teams. The significance of today as it applies to preparing for next week is important. And so, yeah, there's that sense of urgency. And certainly you could look back and say, well, but the point is it didn't happen. Why didn't it happen? And then moving forward, how do we make it happen? And so, there's that fine line. And I've said this before, we between, getting in a groove or being in a rut, I don't think we're in either. We've lost 2 games in a row, 2 close games with really last second field goals. And it's disappointing, but we've got to learn, all right, why were these games this close towards the end? And how do we put ourselves in a position to finish better? Certainly that's collectively all of us.
Darren McKee, Altitude.
Coach, on that point, then big picture, philosophically, what do you think is the biggest difference between teams that you've been with that can finish and teams that do struggle to finish games?
Well, I don't think I can ever recall being with a team that always finished and didn't struggle to, in other words, that it's a journey here. And so when the season's over with, let's look at this team and say, hey, can they finish? And, we'll be able to point to week 2 and 3. We weren't able to, but I think of certain teams that I've been a part of or coached, and I think that the corrections and the improvement, any good team really, and even last year, we had a wild card playoff team. There's a stretch where you begin to win games, and you play better, and that's what's due for this team. That's what has to happen for this team. That's what has to be on our horizon.
Coach, that appears to be all the questions we have for you today. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.